This castover is sponsored by a fucking dog. Hope you guys are having a good day today. I am just starting off the day by casting some matches, apparently on a new Ascension 6 map Sideshow by Neblime against Hamster. Let's see what happens. Now, for those who are unaware of these players, Hamster is, of course, the Celadon Zerg in the top left. He is a Zerg main, and we have the blue Terran of Neblime in the bottom right. This is on a slightly older version of Sideshow that still had a recolor on it, which was designed to try to reduce the glare of the snow. But then I was like, maybe that's actually just something where they need to calibrate their monitors a little better, because I never really had that problem. And so anyway, we're going to test without the recolor a little bit later on. And I guess we'll just leave it up to you. If you desperately despise the ice tile set and you can't handle looking at the snow, especially with the recolor off, then let us know. Let us know. And, it's Halloween when I'm recording this, which is, it feels weird to talk about snow because that's usually associated with Christmas and stuff, but that's okay. We'll figure things out as we go. As we snow. Oh! I don't have any coffee to prop drink, but I already had it this morning. Been busy working on a map called Victory Square by Balethal. I was working on a bunch of tile set updates to add it to it. It's looking pretty good. And feeling pretty good about that. Now, this is a very easily wallable natural, you may have noticed here for Sideshow. And, oh, shit! Oh my god, what a godlike block, though. And we've got a Maverick coming. We've got a lot of queued Masons. And we've got a Macro Hatch in the base. Dude, Hamster loves the Macro Hatch in the base. This is something where Shambler did it in a ZVZ against Keen. And this is on pre-release, by the way, if you guys didn't know that. So Quasith Pool takes 5 extra seconds to make. Gonna be a little bit harder to do ridiculous cheeses as a result, but not impossible. Hey, I put Mystery Meat behind with double Quasi first out of a 7 pool. So if I can do it, and then win with Lakizilisks, then you can do it too. Mystery Meat is not infallible. Just kind of looks like he is all the time. Mason will go ahead and confirm the in-base hatch and the Quasith Pool. Makes a lot of sense. Shambler has been arguing for in-base hatch as a safety precaution. I think on maps like this, it might actually be better to do the in-base hatch, to do the actual expo hatch. But obviously, like, you need more workers to fully saturate one base to start hitting diminishing returns on further workers. When we have 8 mineral fields like in Sideshow, that count for the workers is actually 16 on minerals. And the idea of getting 16 workers before your natural hatch actually finishes, it just beggars belief, right? It's probably not going to happen. Though the only problem is, if you take it too late in the game, could Terran or Protoss or whatever theoretically come in and contain you down your ramp and like occupy this area? So that's the position where you have to take a risk, right? Is it actually going to be a case where I can't actually expand because of that? So there was gas being harvested in the background. We do have a pair of Nather cores on the way. I don't think that this is going to be too consequential because there are Mavericks up, 4 of them in fact, and there is a Starport coming down. Now remember, boys, the Starpad, a tier 1 air option for Terran. It's a little bit more pricey than it used to be. It's 100 gas and 100 minerals instead of 125 minerals and 75 gas. So 100 of each. Sort of took from one and put down the other. We have an anchor coming, which is essentially the bunker. We've got a lovely scenic shot here of the coastal snow, which is a new tile type, and the submerged coastal outpost there. Isn't that lovely? The Nather cores are going to miss that, but this guy's just enjoying the view. He's having a good time. He'll probably be sent back in to re-scout later on. Masons are, workers in general in CMBW are more durable, but they move slower. So it's kind of like a 6 in one, half a dozen in the other, as far as whether or not it's actually going to work out. And we do have the Nats flying over. The Zeths tried to get in there just to see what was going on, and he'll go ahead and burrow cheekily. We do have 2 Mavericks in the anchor. We've got double Starpad coming down. So despite the extra gas cost, it looks like Neblime is willing to take the plunge. We had some early info gathering where the Nats flew over. They didn't really get too much done, but hey, they're also enjoying the view. Who says Zerg can't also enjoy the view? You know, this guy's really taking a fucking piss break or something over there. Maybe turning that water a little bit of a different color. Now, we do have a Watchdog going down just so that he doesn't have to worry about this. I think if both of the Nats focused on one target instead of one of them attacking the Watchdog right now, they could have gotten a worker kill, but I don't know that that matters too much. We do have the Wraith here. Now, Wraiths now have Proximity Cloak. I think this might be the first time we actually show that off in a castover. Proximity Cloak was implemented maybe a week ago, and on pre-release it basically replaces the Terran cloak otherwise, which now means, by the way, like most people are like, oh, wraiths now are going to cloak a little bit differently. Yeah, but it's proximity cloak. You need to be within like 3.5 range or so in order to make it happen. And the exact specifications we might dial those in a little bit differently as we continue testing. But come on, bro. It's proximity cloak. And you know what doesn't ever really become proximal? The Eidolon. So I'm guessing Eidolons will become meta, but we'll see. Now the Wraiths are being tickled, being hazarded. I almost feel like, you know, I really want to encourage people to test and play more games so we can see what the new meta is like, how different it actually is. You can see the slower Quasilisks with their 1 armor pen now. And they absolutely can try to bust this anchor, since the anchor only has 1 armor anyway, so they'll be taking full damage from the Quasis. But you know, they're held at bay for now. Fairly defensible spot up here with the cliff advantage that you get when you stand on a cliff. You get +2 weapon range, so that's always something to remember. It's only when you're firing down on lower ground targets. In fact, if you had a spot like... I heard a... Oh, okay, he's going to do a Kagran drop. There's 4 wraiths coming over here. There is a Spraith. It's got pretty good range, so we'll see if this can really even happen. Yeah, you can see the forcible uncloak based on proximity. But you can also attack... some pretty good moving shot micro there from Neblime's Wraiths. You can attack while cloaked if you can get the magic distance there. It's a little bit hard to do with Wraiths, but much easier to do with Eidolons, as mentioned before. A second anchor has been added. Okay. Worker count definitely in favor of the Terran, which is not necessarily unexpected per se. And we have a set of drops coming in here. This is pretty exciting. But yeah, the thing I was talking about with the cliff advantage is theoretically that can happen with stacked levels of height. It's just it hasn't happened before. So the Kagran Cesian is going to drop probably next to the geyser here. 2 stockades are being added. We do have some Quasis unloading. Wraiths are going to make short work of this situation here because there's already, what, 7 of them? And that Kagran is turning into a circuit in the back line. Now, okay, the Wraiths are sort of getting microed around and stuff, but yeah, it doesn't look like that's long for this world. So there you go. Absolutely destroyed. Nathricor could have come in and helped out or whatever. More Quasis have arrived at the front line, and the Circuit is now starting to get some frags over here. The Masons are pulled to try to disassemble it, dismantle this bad boy, but it's got 3 armor. So I'm not sure that that's going to be super good. I mean, he's going to kill it, but he's lost, what, 3 workers? And it almost lost another one, but it looks like he'll be good to go. And a lot of mining time, right? So it looks like the elevator play is in. Hamster really enjoying himself some transport play. Behind this, you know, we saw that those Masons hadn't returned to work. Another macro hatch in the natural. Looks like he might be trying to expand behind this, which is a good shout. And the Quasis are going to charge on forward. The drops doing a lot of economic damage to the Terran. He's trying desperately to get his military in, but the Hurricanes can be focused down here. They kite backwards. The Ovoliths should probably dip set out of this area, but it looks like instead he's going to try to see if he can evacuate with the Quasis. Shaman here to try to keep everybody topped up. Also heals up the air units. It looks like this Ovolith here is probably going to die. Yeah, but it doesn't have anything in it, so at the very least, you know, the Quasis can come over here. Look, yeah, a lot of the Wraiths ended up dying earlier. The Atlas finally going down for Neblime. That's his tier 2 tech. Needs to get himself into a better spot. And look at the 21. It's 25 Quasis there on the front line. Very, very dangerous. We got more coming. The drop tactics are really... where his army is not very diverse in terms of its composition, his tactics are definitely leveling the playing field here. Mavericks usually defeat the Quasilisk. So... now let's see what he can do over here. He does have an attempted stim up. Looks like that's going to work out pretty well. He does lose one a little bit extra. And yeah, trying to stim to walk past this is a little bit awkward. The Wraiths are here. There were some bio that could have come down. One of the anchors is going to pop. The second one not far behind. But at this point, the Shaman can keep everybody well healed. And so that will be just fine. It's already in visionary mode. We have a Quasilisk standing guard over here. The third hatch is up. So all of this aggression has definitely thinned the defensive force and is going to force Neblime to consider his move-out options. But he is going to start to push it out. And the Quasis are over here. They're not going to get any damage. You can see, I mean, even killing the one Maverick was honestly impressive there, considering there was no, force micro or anything like that. But now the Terran can try to stretch his legs. He doesn't have enough money to drop another Ministry, but he is adding Fulcrum and 2 Starports. So this is probably where we're going to see the Fulcrum add on a Palladium, and maybe we add some Trojans for the purposes of I want to say we're just going to see Madrigal drops. I know that Neblime is a fan of that. That's my guess as to why there's only one Fulcrum, but the double Starport afterwards, he wants to transition into some more air-heavy play. He still has his Wraith Flock of 6. He's got some Bio that are desperately trying to take a dive, take a swim. The water looks nice. 20 Quasis. Do we have tier 2 on the way? Not yet for... oh yeah, he put it in his natural. So, okay, I was going to say, that seems odd. He definitely should have had enough. He is sealing his mineral pathing up a little bit here. So that's a little bit awkward, but he is holding the bridge. So this is an important situation here for the Quasis to try to hold. Frontlining a little bit with the Shaman, that's not exactly the best play. So he ends up losing it very, very quickly. The Cyprians and the Mavericks, on the other hand, though, I think they're going to mop this up. There was not even a stim pack here for the Mavs until super later on. Wraiths are here trying to one-shot. He does have the magic number to one-shot Droleths. So that's definitely a pretty good spot, and he's even going to kill this Circuith, which was... I guess it was there for anti-drop or something. I'm not 100% sure. He's not going to finish it off, and he almost lost more Wraiths. He's going to have to add... I think it's 6 Wraiths to one-shot a Droleth, right? Because it's 55 HP. So, yeah, that's going to be a little bit awkward for him. Palladium out, pumping Madrigals. Do we see Trojans? We do see a double Trojan round. The Starports haven't trained anything yet, as far as we can tell, and a Ministry on location for the 3rd for Neblime. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far from both of these players, and it seems like they're having a good time. We got some Vorvicors mutating, an evolution of the Zethicor available at Tier 1, the only of its kind, actually. Usually you have to tech up in order to access those extra evolutions. But the Vorvicors help out because while they don't deal as much DPS as the Zethicor, they apply Ensnare to their victims on hit. So you can think of it as sort of reducing the movement and attack rates of your opponent, but, you know, you want to sort of spread their targets. So they're less efficient versus an army of, like, mass bio and stuff like that, generally speaking, but you can see the ensnare effect in practice here. And it looks like the Wraiths are going to be scrambled to try to interrupt the flow of the attacks. Meanwhile, as reinforcements are coming in from Hamster's Zerg army, the Neblime Bio is indeed going to get bopped. They're double Spraith over here. I don't think these Wraiths can do too much, but they will go ahead and confirm the scout. And honestly, the fact that his army was caught in translation there a little bit is definitely a bit on the awkward side. Now, some Vorvicors could jump on over here to the Madrigal and try to kill it, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's exactly going to happen. The Anseal plus Cleric is going to allow it to hold. Now, the Sentinel has gone down in the meantime, which is one of the defensive turrets here for the Terran Arsenal. And the Wyvern is even here. This is pre-adjustments to its materials, so I've already made some visual improvements to it. Only 4 Wraiths remaining for general harassment, and we do have another Madrigal out to staff that second Trojan, our name for the dropship. More Wyverns being created. The Wyvern is sort of an anti-material, sort of anti-surface spaceship. You can think of it as like... a Cyprian that flies but only shoots ground. I guess you can kind of think of it like that. It fires off a shot that does penetrate if, you know, it has kinetic penetration, which is sort of a general passive where if it meets something that has less armor, then the unit has armor pen, in this case 3. Then so if it's attacking units with 2 or less armor, then you will absolutely see that. Now here we go. We have the classic maneuver here. We've got quadruple Circuiths being dropped. They're not upgraded defenses. You can transport those in Iroleths. So I wouldn't be surprised if even he drops them over here in some obscure corner of the world and mutates them first or something. But he could also just drop them as they are, and they would probably start running amok. I think Scortriths would just be way better. You can evolve your static defenses, Zerg, another level, but it doesn't look like that's happened here. These are all Circuiths. Now, at the same time, we do have a Madrigal. There's an attempted 4th base being taken. A Madrigal drop on this side, but there's a Circuith here to attack. And I think as a result, honestly, it wasn't even in the right mode, right? It was never deployed. Now it's deployed, but I don't know if that's going to be super significant. We've got a similar like Doom drop happening over here on this side, and I want to see the main. The main, it looks like, oh, just narrowly, you saw so many workers go down with the Madrigal's multi-target. But I think the same kind of thing is happening over here, honestly. Now there is a Phalanx being deployed on the left side. We got the Wyverns coming in, obviously nothing that can attack up. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and see a transfer of the static defense there. These Iroleths are, by the way, evolutions of the Ovileth, if you couldn't tell, which is why they regress back into them. So we won't see... Yeah, honestly, I feel like the bigger amount of damage was actually dealt to Hamster's main. But at the very least, this base... He needs to resaturate the gas ASAP, I think, but, you know, he's also got a lot of money floating around anyway. And his 4th is up. The Quasis are going to go ahead and pick off this Wraith after proximity decloaking them. We have 1 Circuith between these 3 Iroleths that survived. And hey, the Ovileth survived too, so you can remorph that at a discount. Fourth base being taken by Neblime at the same time. And some Cycralisks have arrived just so that they can offer themselves up to the Sentinel gods. We do have Cycralisks, which are essentially crowd control. Like, they attack ground and air, but they're very short range. But you get 2 of them a pop, so they're kind of like... I guess you could kind of think of them as like upgraded Quasilisks in some ways. And the Protathalor, which is only available to attack ground, they are going to force a cancel on that Ministry. It's a little bit greedy of Neblime to drop the Ministry in the same position as like the actual base, right? So this small spattering of bio is absolutely just going to get melted if it doesn't retreat, and it looks like it is going to. Actually, is there only the one Phalanx? Yeah, there is only the one Phalanx. I'm kind of worried for Neblime's forces here, because the Protathalors are very, very solid at dealing with this army. He's going to go ahead and try to deploy and then shield his Madrigal. It did soften up a lot of the Cycralisks, and if they charge forward like that, they are going to just get bopped. Looks like a Phalanx was on the left-hand side there. We do have a forward circuit dropped off by the Irolith, and another thing to keep in mind is that you can establish Niduses this way. Unfortunately, I think the Protathalors are getting a little bit too big for their britches. There's an empty anchor over there, but the Phalanxes, they only take 2 shots to kill a Protathalor. The unit is powerful, but very fragile. It's like a walking glass cannon. Now, meanwhile, a Muta flock of 12 is going to be intercepted by the single Valkyrie. It's most fierce of Nemesis. You can see it. There you go. Get some shots off. Watchdog going to be popped. Salamanders coming in to try to control the ground. We'll hopefully see those later on. And it looks like the Circuit was picked up meanwhile. Valkyrie is going to come in and do some general splash damage, but it looks like only 1 Muta has fallen so far. Another Watchdog being added. We've got 2 more for the Mutas to contend with. They're kind of torn between picking off Phalanxes and anything else. And meanwhile, the Wyverns have just absolutely eviscerated these Protathalors with the help of Sentinels and I think 1 or 2 Phalanx shots. So where'd the Mutas end up going? We only have half of what we started with. And the Salamanders are out. They deal some splash damage. We've got the Quasis sort of guarding this base, and it wasn't even actually being mined from. So in a way, that drop hurts Neblime because he reminded his opponent that he had a 4th. Hydrith then coming up at the 4th. Mutat Spire, obviously we saw the evidence of that. Some idle workers here, but fully saturated Excisant is a big deal. And no saturation on the Ridge, but that's okay. You know, like I said earlier, he's got a lot of money. What does he want to do? The single Wraith heckling the heckling the Iroliths. Not necessarily the biggest of deals. And that Hydrith then will turn into a Back to Swamp almost certainly as soon as it's available. The Wyverns and Salamanders are now trying to occupy this position as Neblime is interested in taking a 4th after all. And, you know, we're settling into a macro game. I don't know that either player can really turn the screws on their opponent, right? We've seen Mutas so far. We've seen like a healthy spattering of different technology. And we do indeed see the second Palladium being added, so it looks like more Phalanxes are going to be the answer. Madrigals have proven pretty useful. They can attack both ground and air with their sort of multi-target, infinity target ability, which is why they end up being used so much. I was still torn on that. I was like, oh, should I maybe make it so that they can only target air or only target ground, like one or the other? You know, I'm not 100% sure on that one, so we'll have to wait and see. But here comes the Salamanders. Now, the Salamanders will deal splash damage, but the damage fields will only deal damage to ground units, right? And it is ally safe. So I remember once upon a time it was not ally safe and you would burn your own structures. Honestly, that might need to be something that gets added back in. Because the ally safe stuff, right? It's something that, like, Terran usually just doesn't have in general. Like, Kinetic Pen is technically ally safe, but that's about it. Now, interestingly enough, we have Hamster here setting up to take the mid bases, right? And I'm glad that we started off with a macro game, so I get to introduce you to Sideshow. Obviously, it's a map I made, so there's some pride there. But beyond that, it's like, this is going to be in the pool, so you guys should know about it. You can take this base at 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock, but as you can see here, this unbuildable terrain, and you can easily harass the mineral line, right? So you really only want to do that if you're going to try to take this area in general. Some random bio units were scouting around to see what they could find. They're going to walk into some fairly well-defended areas. I did hear some missile shots go off. I'm not really sure where those were at. Looking around for it, but it doesn't look like it's anything too consequential. The circuits are dropped. Not a bad shout, honestly. They'll occupy and block the shots from the Sentinels because they have 3 armor. But again, they could be score crits, right? They could be advanced defenses. Some Bactylisks are out to try to deal with some of these Salamanders, and you know, they're doing pretty well overall, but the Salamanders just get right on top of them, and that's going to prevent the Bactylisks from getting extra bounces, because the longer their projectile travels, the more bounces they can get. So that's a really, really good response from the Wyvern Salamander mix. If there were more mutas, you could overpower this force, or maybe if those mutas were in the fight as the attack had happened with all the Bactylisks there, you absolutely could have engaged with those salamanders. And the other thing I'd like to see is Vithralisks. We do see a single one so far. Do we have any advanced Hatcherosk mutations? It doesn't look like it. Oh, no, here we go. So the Kafralosk, the lair, right? This is something that gives you access to the advanced mutations immediately. So you don't need to build the, say, the Vithrilisk originally comes from the Schithracore now instead of the Muta. So you get a new unit called the Schithracore, and then you mutate it into the Vithrilisk, our name for the Devourer. But you have to remember that since you can get this Kafralosk structure and go straight to the advanced mutations, you can make Vithrilisks directly from larvae. There's been a very long amount of time where this has been idle. You can see him selecting it, but it's just him recalling his control group with all of his Hatcherosks in it, no doubt. And meanwhile, neblime is taking the 6 o'clock base as his 5th. So we have 5 bases up for both players, or we will soon have this 5th base up. This one has started to mine. No gas on it just yet. I'm sort of keeping in tabs. There it is. The data is down. So tier 3 is enabled, and we have a diadem being built. So it's going to get a lot harder for the Zerg to use ground armies to their advantage, right? We're going to need to see tier 3 from Hamster, which is not yet on the way, and he's pretty far from it. It's 1,800 Vespene to start that mutation, as well as 900 minerals, which is a little bit easier to come by. Now that he's starting to mine from this base, maybe he'll actually be able to do that, setting up some Kagrants, and is going to start exploring what the double geyser has to offer. He honestly should just try to take this base too, although, I mean, we see the diadem under construction. That wouldn't really last very long. But what would really help him out here if he was going to try to siege this base, Gazithalors, the new name for the Guardian, Ultracores, you probably guess that's the Ultralisk, stuff like that could absolutely help. We have an Iron Foundry being added to the natural. And on pre-release, you don't have the tech add-ons anymore, by the way, so that's a pretty big deal. Now, coming in through the natural path, we've got the Vithrilisk standing guard, we have Spear Tits being dropped, and meanwhile, we've got Madrigals, which will be taken care of by the Bactylisks. Now, the Diadem has fired off some shots. We have the Madrigal up here trying to siege the Spear Tits, but look at the damage being dealt. The Vithrilisk shredding the armor. Now, you just have to watch out because there's lots of Diadem shots rattling off here. And you don't want your Vithrilisk stacks to be annihilated by those, because Diadems can't target air units, but obviously, it looks like these were all on move command, so that's unfortunate. Okay, scooping up the Spraiths, it looks like, not bad. He evacuates with the static defense. He lost a lot of military, but that's okay. Or is it? Maybe it's a bit less okay. Now, I think there was more than one diadem there. I'm sort of surveying the battlefield. The second Iron Foundry being added. Yes, he added one to the 4th. Okay. And meanwhile, he did drop Phalanxes and Achmeds, Hurricanes, into the main. So this is a little bit dangerous. Mutas have been recalled. Nothing can attack air over here. And I say mutas, it's actually only one muta that survived. Some more have been waypointed over. Trying to burn down the Kafralosks. These are 300 plus gas apiece. Guys, I think it's 300, but it might be more. So you really don't want to lose these. This is not looking too hot. The muta's coming in. My dog is watching this cast over live. The Excisants are indeed being mutated in the 5th base there in the middle. But we've kind of seen Hamster stall out. He hasn't taken a 6th. He hasn't stretched his legs, tried to take over the whole top half of the map. We still have these Mavericks standing guard for a likely 6th base here for neblime. And he's even adding a Wellbore to one of these gases. The Wellbore being an advanced gas cap that gives you even more Vespene per return. It only increases it by 1 compared to the Reservoir, which is also increasing it by 1. The Excisant gives you 5 Vespene per return, and by default you have 4. But the Wellbore is going to give you 6. And the reason this is significant, as the mutas are going to come in and try to storm the gates here, they should actually be able to break this Watchdog position. The real important part about the Wellbore is that the more you have, right, the better it is. Now, unfortunately for the Hamster here, the Hamster Zerg, he just dropped static defense, and that triggered the diadems to shoot, because those are ground units, right? Obviously, buildings are ground units. Now, all the air has been wiped out, so he can still try to attack this base, but his army got shredded by the diadems, right? It's just Hurricanes and Wyverns. He should actually hunt down and try to kill these units off. Yeah, absolutely, make him rebuild that anti-ground army. With the air play being a bit more common, the starports should probably start pumping Valkyries, but what does he want to do? What is he building out of the... Okay, he's building Paladins, and he has a single Cuirass. What? He says he wasn't expecting the diadem to lift off. Yes, diadems can lift off. Every structure can lift off, unless it's immobile like the Wellbore, then it can self-destruct. Ministry is also going to go ahead and do that, but look at this. The Cuirasses here has a ridiculous amount of armor. Good luck killing it. All the mutas in the world. Oh, he even targeted it with his own diadem. That's pretty cheeky. I like that. You want like ultra cores, or what else would you want? Oh, I think it's still tasked onto it. Oh no, Neblime, Neblime, did you realize? Neblime, no, no, Neblime, it's gonna shoot again. No, Neblime, no, 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 no. Oh, he still doesn't realize. Did he figure it out? Oh, thank goodness. Thank God. He almost lost a paladin to that. He almost. So when the Cuirass loses its life, right, it takes fatal damage. It starts to rebuild itself, so it's even more durable than it looks. Honestly, it might be like an OP unit, you know, but people aren't using the Iron Foundry too much. Maybe they will now a little bit more. And so, you know, we'll figure that out. There's a lot of units we just don't see very often, right? The Mortoffer being one of them. Look at this, another forced target onto his dying Sentinel there, but the Diadem was not able to actually get some frags. It's now going to target the Ministry, which, if Hamster's not paying attention, could actually kill some mutas here. But it looks like he's just going to start wiping up this base. This is actually looking pretty bad for Monsieur Neblime. He was setting up a base on the top right, but now he's lost his 4th and 5th pretty much at the same time. He is resetting up the 5th. He didn't lose the Wellbore, so I guess there's that. I've been looking around. Is there tier 3 yet? It's now coming. It's been a little bit here, and now all the mutas have revealed, or the Masons have revealed that there was a base being attempted over here. I'm not sure that Neblime's got it. You know, he could have pressured the middle of the map. He could have shut down this base a lot sooner. He did do some pretty cool drops in the main, but he only killed the one... yeah, he only killed the one Kaffirlosk with it. He didn't kill any tech because there wasn't really that much tech. Oh no! Zethra is to counter the fact that Diadems are on the field, and Paladins obviously are dealing friendly damage as well. So you got to keep that in mind. Another Diadem shot is going to go ahead and crack off over here. There goes a bunch of those. The mutas are still in pretty big numbers. We don't see that many Valkyries, only the 2. The Paladins are definitely going to be pretty good versus the mutas, but if the mutas are piloted well, you can just stand on top of the Paladins, and then the Paladins will start dealing friendly damage. They won't deal damage to themselves, because that's just not how they work. Another Doom drop has been amassed. The one Cuirass here just holding back a horde of... a horde of mutas, 22 mutas. This base not yet being really populated, but the Valkyries have been allowed to walk away. And so as a result, they've drifted into basic death. Yeah, Apothecary's coming up. That's like elite tier infantry. I heard an unload and an explosion, but it looks like it was actually just the Trojans, so unrelated. And yes, another Diadem shot coming in here, doing their best to hold down the fort. It looks like they'll be fine. The Shamans are keeping them pretty healthy. The problem is if the Diadem actually ends up attacking again. Yeah, okay, it looks like maybe it was manually targeted or it gracefully attacked something else. Yeah, the Paladins are just fine, and the Shamans are just fine. Oh, maybe they're not being force targeted? I don't know if they're... No, there's no micro happening over here. Oh, no! No, 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 no! Ah, lost a Paladin to a Diadem. And look at the 4,000 minerals. I mean, he can afford to keep doing this. You need to start stationing, like, Matadors or Durandals or something like that. He doesn't really have the ability to do so. Maybe some Cuirasses at the ramp here would help him out a lot. I think even just one would probably block all those deaths. And they can survive the Diadem shots, especially with some Shaman support. So, yeah, pretty big deal. Now, the Wellbore finally going down. Fairly expensive. Here come the Paladins to try to do some pretty good damage there. You can see how fast 2 Paladins will make short work of that. And if they stick around to fight the Ministry, that's not going to be a good move. We have some Tetzoricors, Zerg Chads. In fact, you might actually see Zerg Chadricor or something. No, not quite. There's a 1 in 256 chance for some units in the game to have a different name. Very, very low. It's all a reference. Anytime you see 1 in 256, it's a reference to how... there's some like walls being built up here. Reference to how there used to be a 1 in 256 chance for stuff to miss. Now these things deal AoE damage, and not small amounts of damage either, so I think this base is not going to be long for this world. A little bit awkward there that he never ended up reinforcing that base. Now he has some Silver Tongues and Diadems pressuring the middle of the map. Looking pretty good over here for Hamster to close it out, even though if he loses that... so interior 6, I guess you would call it. I've heard Diggity refer to maps like that, right? Where the bases are like 6 o'clock but interior, or 12 o'clock but interior. Yeah, that lower central base. So no more gas mining coming out from here, but Hamster hasn't really found a way to spend his money in the first place. He has a Gathtalos coming at the 4th. He's got the Gezkath Grot. I think he's got pretty much all the tech. The only thing he's missing is like Matravel Elcag or something. I guess he doesn't have Isthrith. So, okay, anyway. There's more to come in the future, depending on what happens. Just blanketing the area with shots. The Cuirass will rebuild itself. It had 69 HP for a second there. Yeah, it just threw the meat grinder over here. Another Diadem up. Here come the Tozgralisks. These are advanced air units. So you evolved the Mutalisk into this. They're going to start shredding, but watch out for the Paladins, man. Oh! A bunch of units died. Trojan randomly came over just to die. No problem. Okay, he's fended it off for now. He needs to land this base. Single Tetzoricor is here. Looks like an attempted drop over there did not go very well, but the Diadems continuing to add pressure. Looks like some Mutalisks were just popped as they were trying to mutate into Tozgrilis. Oh! And the Sentinel will also probably die. Hey, at least he landed that. He could start making more Masons. Dude, only 117 workers? Neblime, what are you doing? And Alcagelisk is here, but between the Paladins and the Silvertongue that is hiding underneath the mechs there, the giant walkers, I think he's actually going to be okay. He hasn't added on anything to his Iron Foundries. He doesn't really have anything in place to deal with this position. He is losing some of his workers on the depleted minerals. Honestly, I feel like Neblime's money is about to run short, and he might have to GG here pretty soon. His Paladins are going to slowly shuffle off into that location. He has set up 6 o'clock again, but 12 o'clock is now being taken by Hamster meanwhile. And this guy somehow spent all of his money, which should be fucking terrifying to anybody who saw he had like 5,000 minerals earlier. So I don't even want to know necessarily what he's got. Gathalosk's the Hives. Instead of giving you a bonus to, like, you know, sort of skipping the stage of one of the mutations, they give you the basic mutations, but you get 2 of them per egg. So where normally you would get 1 Droleth, you get 2. Normally you get 1 Aziracore, you get 2. And if you build Zethicores out of them, then they give you 4 instead of 2, right? So that's the sort of idea. Some of the expensive air units here are being occupied, unfortunately, by the Paladins. I'm guessing that, yeah, Diadems are continuing to rain hellfire upon this base. He actually should just, yeah, he's lifted off his Watchdog and he's sort of parking it here. The Paladin's also doing some pretty good damage there. He should probably try to deny more of these, like, satellite bases as well. And he's perpetually been kind of locked into the bottom half of the map. But if he could take this and then set up more static defense on this side, you know, you can start to have Diadems rain down on the 3 o'clock base or 9 o'clock base there for Hamster. This base once again being attacked. Well, just a little bit of pressure. And it looks like we have more Alcagelisk. Yeah, Hamster is getting some pretty good late-game Zerg practice in right now because he's trying to figure out how to crack a well-fortified Terran. And all the Paladins are actually going to help out a lot, but the meaty front line, you know, the Aziracores are coming in. So I'm clicking each one of them. Maybe one of them is a Chad. It's a lost cause. I don't think any of them are Chads. Maybe I clicked on one and he was Chad, and then I didn't even notice. Now I gotta check them all again. Just kidding. Another Diadem being set up here. Blanketing the field with the Paladin shots. You can use Cuirasses to sort of absorb with that. And, of course, Shamans to keep everybody else topped up. They will go ahead and get deployed. This is exactly what I was hoping for when I made the Cuirass, honestly. This is ridiculous. Now, meanwhile, the Air Force is completely decimated. We saw the Diadem shoot off a tracker shot, but it wasn't able to finish because the Alcagelisks, Tozgrilisks, and Vithrilisks have come in on the other side. And GG is called. Neblime is going to go ahead and give it up. He could not hold back the Hamster Zerg. And hey, how's that for a sort of first time we've seen pretty good players play on Sideshow? You know, I played some matches against Mesk, and it did get tested a few other times as well before this. But hey, I'm pretty satisfied with that showing. I think both players had options for expansions and stuff, and we're going to continue refining it. If you had suggestions for the map, obviously let me know. And otherwise, just tell me how you felt about that. I mean, I think that match was pretty cool, not just because of the map, but just because we saw some really interesting tactics, right? The players will always try to elevate maps and play to the best of their ability with what tools they have. So less about the map and more about the players, obviously. But I'm appreciative of that. And we've got more games. I think there were 7 submitted. So I don't know if they're all on Sideshow or not. I didn't check. But you can enjoy the fact that this one is done, and then we'll go on to parts 2, 3, 4, however many parts we need to get through this in the future. So stay tuned and sign up for CMBW, dude. Ascension 6, groups are locked and loaded. You guys can practice up if you're not already and get ready for Ascension 7 in December. You know, there's lots of stuff to do. So stay tuned.